Dear colleagues, welcome to the Professional Development Program on National Education Policy. As you are very much aware, this is the 9th batch of this Professional Development Program, which we are part of the program. And I am Dr. Ali Asgar, Assistant Professor in Distance Education at Staff Training and Research Institute of Distance Education. And so far, we have 3 live interaction with all of you through Swayam Parva, and today we are going to have a 4th live interaction with all of you. So far, we have discussed about National Education Policy, National Credit Framework, National Education Policy, Vocational Education, National Education Policy 2020, and continuing in medical education. And today, we are going to have a discussion and presentation on the topic of National Education Policy 2020 and online learning and higher education. And to present on this topic, we have with us very distinguished personality from Indira Gandhi National Open University. Let me introduce him first. The resource person with us today is Professor Subodh Kesharwani. He is a professor in the discipline of commerce at School of Management Studies, Indira Gandhi National Open University. And he has about 22 years of teaching experience in the information system, technology-enabled learning, and its linkages with various domains of management. Let me also inform you that Dr. Kesharwani has done his doctorate in ERP system in 2002 from the Allahabad Central University, and he has been delivering various talks on various relevant and very contemporary topics like MOOCs, team building, e-commerce, technology-enabled learning, e-resources, technology used in research, blockchain, and enterprise information system, and many more. And more importantly, he is also founder editor of a peer-reviewed journal, referee journal, which is having an international kind of level. That is, the journal is called Global Journal of Enterprise Information System, and he has been chief editor of that journal since 2009. And Dr. Kesharwani has, to his credit, about 35 research papers in various peer-reviewed national and international journals. So, with these words, I welcome Professor Kesharwani to this session. And before handing over session to him, let me also share with you all that we have divided this session into 2 parts. In the first part, Professor Kesharwani will be presenting on the theme, which is technology, online learning and higher education. And in the second part of the today's discussion, we shall be taking your questions and queries which you are posting through Swayam Parva channel and through YouTube channel. So we shall come back within few seconds. Please bear with us. Thank you.
Hello learners, I think we have a very brief round of introduction by Professor Ali, and he had thrown a glimpse about what exactly the online learning is, what exactly the sessions which we have taken about NEP 2020, and a lot of the things which revolves around national education policy. I think that was discussed by and large by the various experts in the preceding sessions, starting from the preamble session by Honorable Vice Chancellor Professor Nageshwar Rao. Then the variety of sessions was talking more about what exactly the national education policy is and how this national education policy is changing with the change of time. That is more important. So this is something which had given birth to the various topics. I think talking about the credits, we have seen that how this academic bank of credit is working as a milestone. And on the other hand, the certain amendments, certain, the new things, the certain technologies which are coming up in a big way, I think that is going to play a very important role, because when you talk about technology, I think in our preceding sessions, I have talked about the digital learning and the other sessions also. But here I am going to talk more on what exactly the online learning is, and how this online learning is aligned with the higher education. That is more important, because since we are talking about the tertiary education, we are talking about the university going the students. And so that is more important, because higher education is something which is on the on the different mode, because the kids are, if you talk about school education, I think there, if you introduce technology, they are ready to take the technology. But when you talk about the higher education, somewhere there are certain rigidness which need to be changed with the change of time. So this particular session which I am going to talk today, I think it's emphasized more on what exactly the electronic learning is, and what is the present trend is going on in higher education, and how we are going to intermingle the online learning and higher education with this certain terms, because the digital divide is coming up and edtech are coming up. Because when you talk about educational technologies, I think somewhere the change is coming up. So technology is no more, learning is no more the only the technology thing, but it is somewhat over and above to that, where you have the hybrid way of taking the things. So hybrid learning is coming up, which is a complete combination of the brick and mortar system, the click and mortar system, and the trend which is changing with the change of time. Because the trend is changing very fast. There was a time when technology was just a very important thing, but if you talk in the present scenario, I think the yesterday technology is no more part of the present technology. So this is what the change is. And we have seen that how the Indira Gandhi National Open University, which was pioneer in distance learning, open and distance learning, I think have changed themselves and revamped with this new platform called electronic learning, online learning. So we started with the pilot project with 2 programs, and now we have bundles of programs in the masters, in the bachelors, and the various other domains. So this had given birth to this thing what exactly we are talking about. So prior to going into the depth of this particular theme which I have taken today, I think we have to talk about certain statistics, certain facts, because there was a trend which was changed. So we have seen that how the blackboards and textbook which was a need of an hour in the past, but now it's no more no playing a very important role. And the gadgets had come up which had taken the replica of what exactly the texts which are available into our basket, and with the help of that things are changing. So technology used in education sector, we have seen that it is crossing into 3 times. So if you talk about the countries who are using the edtech, I think US stand number 1, then you have India, then you have Brazil, United Kingdom, and China. These are the countries which are coming up. So 89% of educators realize that technology is an integral part of their life, and so must be integrated into the educational business. So I think technology is something which is playing a very important role, because we have seen that the technology was started by the defense, by the different purpose, but after certain time you realize that this is becoming a integral part of the learning. So the drones and other the artificial intelligence which was used by the technocrats for different purpose, but now it is crossing its wear boots and applying in the online learning or in the higher education. So we are going to talk about certain facts and figures. Then we are going to talk about how the digital divide is coming up, because when you talk about the digital divide, I think somewhere there's the learners are privileged to access the internet, but somewhere it is not. So this is somewhat the gap which is coming up, and this had talk about something which is called the thing which need to be done. So if you talk about the reports, I think 50.8% of teachers said they know what exactly edtech is, and 35.6% have heard about and not sure about the terminology, and 13.6 are still aware about what exactly edtech is. So edtech is nothing but educational technology which is going to be used for the primary education, for the secondary education, and when you talk about higher education, I think the tertiary education, there also there is a great role of that. So people are slowly and gradually becoming familiar with edtech, and within a short span you will find out that it is going to be part and parcel of our education system. So this is something which is there, and technology is something which is changing. I want to share a very good example over here, because when we go into the market, because in and buy a pizza, so if you take a pizza, I think you get in a square box, and when you open it's a circle, and when you start eating it's a triangle. So this is something which is giving a change in the technology. So technology is no more a proprietary of anybody. It is very fastly changing, and what we observe that, there are certain, the system which was there, the brick and mortar system, the established universities were there, but now what we have seen, that people have crosses the boundaries. The traditional universities boundaries had been changed now. So there was a time, if you see that, the education was completely confined to, the university systems, but right now the education systems had changed with the change of this online platforms. Either you talk about edX or Coursera, or if you confine to India, I think we have seen that how this Swayam and Swayam Prabha is playing a very important role. So the good number of courses are coming up, the standalone courses are coming up, and learners are enrolling in the standalone courses through Swayam, which is a initiative by Ministry of Education. And then in that particular courses they enroll, they get the credit, and then finally, they put the credit in the academic bank. So these are the good things which are coming up, where you have seen that how this academic bank of credit is playing a very important role. So traditional universities education is bundled with, the technological platforms. Either you talk about, if you talk about the clouds, I think somewhere, the AWS is there, the web services are there. If you talk about Facebook, the social networking platforms are there. Then on the other hand, the certain research oriented, the platforms are there, like academic edu, like researchgate. And on the other hand, certain, the correlation one, and these are, linked with certain things. And then finally, the dissemination of the learning is going on. So this is what exactly, the scene is, what exactly the scenario is, that we talk about today. If we talk about that, that online learning and higher education is intermingling and giving a good way to the learners. So education is no longer delivered by educational institution alone. We have seen that, and companies are using this real life things, or real time things, which is playing a very important role. So there are certain facts and figures which is very important, that education is the third biggest spending item among essential national spendings. If we see that how this OTT or the, the web services or web series are there, like Netflix, and Spotify is there, which is, having a bank of the songs. So you see how the market is, coming up, and once you reach to the top level, you find out that this is the place where, the education sector is there. So this is the third sector, after real estates and, the other thing. And if you go more into the depth of that, you find out that role of this higher education is very important. So this is what exactly, the thing is, that the government is also taking more initiative in this direction. And when you're going to transform education, that is, from if you talk about, the learning stage, or rather we say that lifelong learning stage. So we see that, the preschools are there, then primary and secondary educations are there, then higher education and adult learning are there. And there you will find out, the classroom texts are there. Like if you talk about, the indigenous players in India, I think Byju's are there, then tutors are there, and a lot of, the initiatives, the Swayam initiatives which the government is taking, which is a very very subsidized thing which the government had taken up. So Swayam is there. We will definitely talk about that, how the massive open online courseware, which we usually call MOOC, was started by the certain groups in US, and then it's become a hot cake if you talk about present scenario. So the players like edX, like Coursera, like Simple Learn, then Khan Academy, and then other, the platforms which are going on in India, then how they have transformed educations with the help of, the platform which is there. So, and on the other hand, peer-to-peer knowledge sharing is also coming up. We have seen that there are certain, the static thing which like Quora is there, and so these are the, the techs which are playing a very important role. So I think if we talk about today's discussion, I think this three-tier approach and the discussion point revolves around, the NEP 2020, and the preceding speakers have very well, talk about what exactly the national education policy is and how this national education policy is revamping themselves with the change of time, because the online learning or electronic learning or the online education is also deviating from its current path, and then higher education is also changing because more skill oriented courses are coming a part of the baskets, and then there are certain the things which are going on. So anyway, I think we will definitely talk about on the lines of online learning and higher education vis-a-vis NEP 2020, but on the other hand we will talk about digital divide and edtechs, because when you talk about the edtechs, or when you talk about digital divide, I think somewhere we have to find out the gaps, because when you talk about technology, when you talk about online education, or rather we would say the electronic learning, I think somewhere we have to talk about totality, because totality is something which believes in integration. So when you are going to integrate from underneath to pinnacle, when you are going to integrate the certain nodes, certain verticals, I think somewhere the benefit is going to be there for the larger segment of the society. So one of the biggest advantage of electronic learning is that it's transcends the geographical boundaries, it crosses the boundaries and put it where boots in other parts of the world. I think we have seen that how the MIT courseware, which was initiated by MIT, and the different players which were established in brick and mortar learning, I think they have revamped their contents. Indira Gandhi National Open University is one of that, because the university have a huge archives of self-learning materials, and that too in varieties of domains, in varieties of departments. So that the archives are transferred into eGyan course, which is a electronic portal where we can put the archive and considered as one of the quadrants of of this online learning. So again, when you talk about the quadrants, I think the whole structure of learning, when you talk about massive open online courseware, Swayam or Swayam Prabha is going to be bifurcated into 4 quadrants. And the first quadrant talks about the video part. I think the animation, the multimedia which we use in the content, so that the learners can very easily mug up the thing. So this is the USP of the quadrants. And the second quadrant is no doubt the self-learning material. And Indira Gandhi National Open University considered to be the only university in India which emphasize more on the self-learning content, the contents which are automatically revamped in its own style, in its own way. So this is something which had given birth to this kind of thing, then assessment, and then finally the examination. So again, all those things, when we talk about electronic learning, when we talk about online learning, I think somewhere we follow a electronic approach. There is no physical touch as far as the learning is concerned, as far as the evaluation is concerned, as far as assessment is concerned, as far as examination is concerned. So this is the beauty of electronic learning, and keeping in mind higher education is also going to be revamped in that way. So it allows the benefit of class irrespective of the physical locations, and student can very easily attend the courses from the various prestigious universities across the globe. So this is the thing which is coming up. And I was talking about the multidiscipline approach. I'm talking about the multilinguistic approach, and then the learning which is there. So this is something which is coming up. And when you talk about edtech, I think edtech tools are online platforms that assimilate technology with education. So So education is there, the technology is there. Now I think the tailor-made, the customized, the contents are going to be created, which can be quite useful. I think it's more emphasizing for the brick and mortar learners, for the click and mortar systems, and these edtech tools ensures that online education delivery is carried out flawlessly. So I think somewhere the interruption is going to be cut short, and whatever the digital disruption is there, whatever the digital the divide is there, that need to be taken care of. Because when you talk about India as a whole, I think somewhere there's a good broadband or the bandwidth, but on the other hand, you find out the remote areas where there's no power, there's no internet. So what we observe that we are not following the mandate of reaching to the unreached. So edtech is something which emphasizes more on this particular aspect and talks about certain things. So when you talk more about the tech tools which are going to be used by the educators in particular 2022 or in 2023, I think the platform is already there, and some of the the tools which I'm talking about, I think we are acquainted with that, we are acclimatized that, or it's going to be day-to-day activity as far as our learning is concerned. I think Google Form, we start with the Google Form. I think what we have seen that when, as a researcher, when we develop a questionnaire, the good part is that these, the questionnaires are going to be filled with the help of this Google Forms and transferred to the respondents. And when the respondents reciprocates, I think somewhere the response sheets are going to be filled by that. So very easily we get the data in a Excel format, and then the moment we get the data, we very easily customize it into the certain graphical format. So which either it could be the pie chart or bar chart. So this is a good thing which is there. Microsoft Teams, I think, somewhere helps us in interacting with the in a virtual mode. And YouTube, I think we all knowing that since I am interacting with you, I think after certain time you find out that my video is available on the YouTube. So this is something which is there, and the learners can also download the varieties of the contents which overlap with the particular theme. So Google Meet is also one of the virtual, the platform which is going on. And then Udemy, Vimeo, OneNote is there. When we talk about OneNote, I think this is a very good initiative where you have got, the varieties of PDF files, and you can convert it into a one file. So OneNote can be useful. You can make it as a ready reckoner, which can be quite useful for the learning purposes. So this is something which is there. Coursera, we have talked about that how this online revolution which we talk about that had come up after the textbook, that online education had come up. So Coursera, edX, and some of the platforms which are coming up, I think the initiatives which going to be taken by the government of India in coming months about the creation of the digital university. So this is a part of a way. I think the education industry is going to change, or the learning industry is going to change, because the technology, when you talk about technology, I think somewhere you have to take into consideration the current trends, the current model which is going on. Udemy is again the platforms with varieties of courses. So this is something what exactly the scenario is. And when you talk about a spectrum of tools that helps a teacher and student, I think that is more important, because when you talk about technology, it's not like that we can only facilitate the learners. Somewhere the other verticals which are helping in disseminating the educations can also be equipped with the technology. So 70% of teachers, if we talk about, I think agree that edtech tools can be helpful for students for better learning. And these edtech tools are what we have talked about in our preceding slide is more justified. 71% principals agree that digital tools help students to build their real life skills. I think when you talk about or go into the depth of National Education Policy 2020, I think somewhere we talk about the skills, we talk about the trend which is going on. So 35% of teachers agree that edtech tools helps them to effectively monitor academic progress of their students. So this is what exactly the scene is, and edtech is not just done by edtech companies. I think if you cross the boundary, you will find out that companies launching education services. I think the Shopify campus is coming up, and InVision Design is giving approach to that. Intercom Academy is coming up. So what you have observed that the companies are also launching education services, and when you talk about the passionate individual educational courses, I think somewhere it's not confined to the players which are available here, but a lot of other the platforms which are coming up. So if you talk about edtech in 2022, I think the new and evolved model, on the other hand, has online curriculum which is based on the analytics, and this has given birth to the personalization, and has a progress tracking system which can be used by artificial intelligence based feedback. So, edtech in 2022 is more agile, more active, and the curriculum is based on cultural collaborations which can amalgamate YouTube, social media, and gaming models. So the learning which I am talking about, the four quadrants, I think we have seen that it's not going in the monotonous way, but somewhere the latest trend or the latest know-how which is a need of an hour is going to be implemented or absorbed into it. So focusing more on continuous engagement is there. So when you talk about the continuous learning, so there was a time when we talk about the blended learning, but if you talk in the present scenario, we are more talking about the continuous learning. So continuous learning is more agile in nature, and it can engage the learner for a longer time, and finally when the learners are engaged, more penetration or footfall in the particular portal, I think the more learning will go on in that way. So if we go more into the depth of that, I think somewhere we find out that the digital divide is the gap between the internet access and those without the internet. I think the preceding slides, I have little bit emphasized on what exactly the digital divide is, and I think if you talk about India as a whole, you find out that we have got a urban belts, we have got a rural belt. So, but somewhere we have to bridge those gaps. So the contents, I think, which is created by let's take an example of Indira Gandhi National Open University, the self-learning material which we used to develop. So we try to take into consideration that the contents we develop is itself a self-learning material, and the learners who are situated in remote areas or in urban areas or wherever they are located, they can go through the content, and once they are reading the contents, they feel that they are in the classrooms. So this is something, the thing is there. So taking into consideration, I think when you talk about the digital divide, I think whatever the gaps are there that need to be bridged, and digital divide is multifaceted and includes many factors such as access, affordability, quality, and relevance. I think the national education policy mandate emphasize more on the affordability, quality, and relevance, because affordability is something which is a very important aspect, because I think that is the only thing by which you can reach to the unreached and cater the masses, because the cost is a very important aspect. Learning is not everybody cup of tea, and it's really a very cumbersome, a very very expensive affair, I think, when you talk about the learning. So Indira Gandhi National Open University, if you talk about, I think, always believes in reaching to the unreached and try to develop a program, try to develop a courses which emphasize on the base of affordability. So, and on the other hand, there are certain additional divides like other areas that can create digital inequality, which includes security, interconnectivity, digital literacy, and access to equipment. I think that is something which is there. And if you talk about the SWAYAM courses, I think IGNOU is considered as one of the national coordinators of the SWAYAM courses, and we have got a good number of courses which are available under the ambit of Indira Gandhi National Open University, and these courses are used by the varieties of learners, and they also get the privilege to get the credit transfers with the help of the Academic Bank of Credit. So these are the benefits which are coming up. And if we go more into the depth of the digital divide, I think we see that the Jacob Nielsen categorized the digital divide into three stages, that is economic divide, usability divide, and empowerment divide. So if you talk about economic divide, I think no doubt as I have talked about that the programs or the courses or the uh, which is not everybody cup of tea. So technology is no doubt reaching to the unreached, but somewhere it's not become a affair where one can get it in a throwaway price. So I think somewhere this need to be taken care. Usability divide is there, that how they are going to use it, and then empowerment drive. I think the content or the courses are are developed in such a manner that it can cater the under marginalized, deprived, and other things. So digital divide, if we see that, I think it is something which was started in the 1990, and faced at the both ends, that is academic transaction, either it could be the teacher or the student. So it's not like that. I have talked about that digital divide is something which can be work as a constraint for the students. I think somewhere, if you are not going to take the digitalization or the technology in the manner, I think it is going to be a hue and cry situation for the teachers, also for the instructors also. So economic divide, as I have talked about, I think we have, if we see this particular image, we see that how the developing economies are are using it and how the developed economies are using it. So internet access become low among economic vulnerable countries, and it refers in the past year also that this is something which is there. So usability divide, I have talked about, the problem is particularly evident with low literacy and senior persons, and somewhere you see that technology remains so complicated that many people could not use a computer even if they got one for free. So I think somewhere this is more important, that rather than uh, providing a device, I think the grooming or the training need to be done where we can develop a platform that how they are going to use it. So that is more important. So if you talk in the present scenario, I think there are certain technologies which are available in throwaway price, or they are freely available, but the learners have to, or or the or the users who are going to use, they know how to use it, because that is more important. So it happens with certain thing. And empowerment drive, as I've talked about, is the divide most difficult to solve. It is concerned with how we use technology to empower ourselves, and we can see that researcher reports that few people contribute content to the internet. So, but with the change of time, we find that things are changing, and users do not work to understand how they can truly be empowered. So this is something which is there. So digital divide, as I have talked about, bifurcated into usability, empowerment, and then economic drive, which is there. So on the other hand, if you talk in the new education policy perspective, I think the digital drive is technology in education, teacher education, and then financial support. So we have to create and exchange the ideas and use of technology to enhance learning, assessment, planning, and administration is one of the aspect. And then teacher education is there. By 2030, the minimum degree qualification for teaching will be the 4-year integrated B.Ed degree, if you talk about the school going kids. So, and financial support, if you talk about, I think the private institutions will be encouraged to offer scholarship to their students. So these are the certain things which are going on. And when you talk about the professional education, standalone technical universities, health sciences, legal and agriculture universities will aim at becoming multidisciplinary institutions. So this is something is going to come up, where multidiscipline is going to be emphasized in big way. So the students who have been enrolled in science, they can take up paper of social science as a minor. So here I want to share a very good example that if you talk about the Western world, I think the countries like United States of America or United Kingdom, I think they believes in enrolling a student in the beginning stage in their institutions rather than in a department. So if I am a commerce student, and I can go for higher education in US, I can enroll myself first in the university and I will start learning the papers which are which are minor in nature. So my first year, my second year is quite common in nature, where I am going to enroll in the university, and I am going to study the common papers which the science stream student or the art students are going on. And when I am moving to the third year, I can start taking the majors or the subjects like the commerce, or the hardcore papers like business studies or accountancy or statistics. So this can decide my specialization domain, specialize decide my streams. And finally, when I move into the fourth year, I can the papers which I choose can decide my department. So this is a good thing which the institutions are doing right now, that rather than enrolling the student in the particular stream, they enroll the students in the university, the blankets and the gamut of courses are there. So they have got certain courses which, and accordingly they can decide. So they start having with the mind that they can enroll in the commerce, but after certain time they enroll in the multidiscipline courses. So I think this could be the beauty of the national education policy, which is going to be applied in the Indian scenario in very soon, where we see that the learners take the credits and choose the courses, make the tailor-made the curriculum as per their requirement, as per their need, and finally whatever the curriculum they take, whatever the the syllabi they will choose, it will decide their streams. So keeping in mind, I think the academic bank of credit, or the Swayam or Swayam Prabha we have talked about, I think the standalone Swayam courses are playing a very important role. Learners enrolled in the Swayam courses, and as per their pace, as per their need, they accomplish the particular course, and finally once they achieve the four component, the four quadrant, they do it, then automatically they get the credits by putting it in the academic bank of credit. So these are the good things which is coming up. And finally, academic bank of credit talks about the quantity, talks about the quantum of the courses they take, or the quantum of credit. So if say for the bachelor's degree, I think 132 is the benchmark. So if the learners get 100 credits from Swayam, or 32 credits, or the 50 credits from various ways, the moment they achieve the 132 credits, they ask for the degree, and their combinations, their minors, their majors, what they achieve is going to decide that what exactly they want. So this is the USP of the national education policy, which talks about the multidisciplinary approach, which talks about the certain things which is there. So I think with the change of time, we will find out that the boundaries which have been created by the various institutions, by the various states, or by the various jurisdictions, need to be eradicated, need to be abolished, and the sky is the limit for the learners. They enroll in the particular courses, get the credit, and put it on the academic bank, and then the things will go on. So in the coming years, you will find out that this credit is not confined to getting the courses. They can, if they are working in corporates, they are working in industry, they are working somewhere, that can be also converted into credit. So this kind of the phenomena which is going to be developed, and Ministry of Education is working in this direction in a big way. So all those things talks more about that whatever the learning should be there, it should be perpetual in nature. There must be a concrete the benefit. There must be a certain the effort which can play a very important role. If the learners are skill oriented, if the learners are skills, I think somewhere they can get the employment in a very faster mode. So intention behind the national education policy is to emphasize more on the skilling, so that they can learn, they can earn, and finally once they enter into the market, once they establish themselves, I think they can do the wonders with their knowledge, skills, with their the way they have learned it. So this is the thing which is going on. And when you talk about, I think, the higher education, I think, which is quite intricate in nature if you compare with the primary education or the secondary education, because the tertiary education is somewhat more intricate in nature. So it is the inequality among the people in terms of access of digital tools, and indicates the gap between those who have regular effective access to digital and information, because certain things which are going to play a very important role. So I think that I have talked a lot about certain things which can throw a light on what exactly the online learning is, and the higher education is how the higher education is changing. There are certain questions, I think, which going to be a part of this digital divide vis-a-vis when we talk about online learning or higher education, that how the digital divide affects the learning of being a student. I think this is a very good question, because the digital divide is a gap between, because the technology is something which is because India is a country which have a huge base, and we have to see that how the technology is going to be fit in that bottle. So maybe the internet usage is internet bandwidth is slow, or the broadband is not in that way. So we have to find out that how this digital divide affects the learning of being a student, and how does digital divide promote inequality in education. I think we have to see that, and what are the benefits of digitalization in education. We see that education, when the education is digitalized, it's reaching to the unreached. And when you talk about the technology enabled learning, I think it have a wider reach, and the learners uh, who are situated in one corner of India, they can, with the help of digitalization, with the help of the technology, they can very easily get the benefit of that, and they can use it. And digital divide, if you talk in a present scenario, I think it's going to be a very important, rather I would say it's a need of an hour. And without digital uh, divide, I think thing is not going to be changed. And this is very important aspects. And if you talk about key principles of NEP, I think the national education policy, we have a very elaborative discussion, and we have seen that it talks about curriculum, pedagogy and policy, equity and inclusion. So this is what exactly the national education policy is, and how the inclusion and how the equity is going to come. I think somewhere there's a use of technology which is going to be important. So community participation, use of technology, and for various aspects is going to come up. So critical thinking, creativity, unique capabilities are very important. And when you talk about the technology enabled learning, I think somewhere you get varieties of ways by which the things are going to be changed. So we have seen that online learning can improve future-ready skills, communication, collaboration, technology, and education. We have talked about the certain ways of by which the technology is going to be come up in the present scenario. So collaboration, education, this is there, and higher education vision is there. I think uh, there are certain bodies which are playing a very important role, which helps in revamping curriculum, pedagogy assessment, and student support. I think uh, we see that the curriculum is also going to be changed, right? Because the learners are quite agile right now. Uh, they see how much the state of art the curriculum is, and the teaching pedagogy is also changing. We have seen that when we follow the four quadrant, I think the teaching pedagogy, as far as animation, usage of animation, as far as the multimedia is coming up, and student support is also changes with the change of time. There was a time when we are restricted to only one mode of student support, but with the help of this technology, I think the social networking platforms or the WhatsApp, the other ways, the things are going to be changed. So imaginative and flexible curriculum structures are coming up, and the option is given to the learners. So I think there are certain major reforms in higher education is coming up. Multidisciplinary part I have talked about. Holistic and multidisciplinary education is coming up, and GER is going to be enhanced by 2035. So online education, if you talk about, is going to be seen with your life and help students to become more independent learners before they make their way in the real world, and that could be the purpose. And when you talk about electronic learning, I think student engagement and performance are going to be judged at every juncture, uh, at every time, and wherever they are finding themselves, in trouble. I think the technology is going to help them in this regard. MOOCs I have already talked about, and we see that that how the Indira Gandhi National Open University have developed their own the self-learning material in a digital mode, and the learning management system. So virtual learning environment is coming up, content management system, I think, or the course management system, which we usually call the learning management system. I think it's a Moodle based platform which we are using. And then mobile learning is coming up. I think mobile work as a smartphone, we have seen that, but on the other hand, it's going to be helpful to the learners. These are the things which are going to play a very important role. And there are certain questions which are coming up. How does online learning help learners? It's very true that online learning is going to help learners in a various mode, at various verticals, in a various manners, because you are with the technology in a 24/7 mode. So when you are with the technology in 24/7 mode, you can get the privilege of the learning as per your requirement, as per your need. And online learning somewhat navigate the learners to do the things. Sometimes what the technology is doing, if I am confined to the particular theme or the particular topic, we see that the related videos are coming to us. So this is what a new way of learning. So online learning is a new way of model, and new way of learning, and it's having the most positive effect. And when you talk about this thing, this is there. So I think I have talked a lot about the basic part of what exactly the online learning is, and how this online learning is aligned with the higher education. That is more important, because certain the things which are coming up, and augment and digital infrastructures are there, online teaching platforms and tools are there, virtual labs we have talked about, and blended models of learning is coming up. Why I'm talking about blended models of learning? Because there's no such rocket science or the thumb rule where you can say that the learning can go in this way.